Aunt Jessie here from the Elyria Arts Council. Today we're going to be making a cool parrot puppet out of a paper lunch bag. What you're going to need for this project, of course, is a paper lunch bag. And you can see that mine has a logo on it. That doesn't matter because we're going to cover the entire bag. All we need is the bag for its structure. You're going to need glue, a stapler, ruler. You're going to need something to draw with, basically just to make the eyes of the parrot. A pair of scissors, a white piece of paper, and it can be a very small white piece of paper. This one's really big. It's a scrap I had laying around. So you are also going to need quite a wide variety of colored paper. This is a really cute project for the young ones. And if you have a group of kids, it takes a little bit of prep to get it going, but it's really great for those who love to cut. So let me show you how to do it. Okay, so first thing first, for the prep for this project, you've got to do a lot of measuring and cutting. So first thing is, you've got your little flap here on your lunch bag. This is going to act as your parrot's head. It's also going to help his beak open and close. This is a really fun project because it becomes a toy to play with when you're done making it. So what you need to do is measure the head, and my head is 5 inches, or the bottom of my lunch bag, by 3 inches. So what I did was I cut a piece so that I could make the parrot's head a nice bright color. So we've got the head here. So you're gonna need that. Then what you're gonna need is a piece of yellow paper that you can fold in half and make a parrot beak out of. And it needs to be big enough to get glued up into that fold and draw a triangle on it to make a nice big long parrot beak. So I believe this piece of paper is 10 inches by 2 inches. Then you're going to need to make some wings and some feathers for the front. So here's what I do to make the wings. And you're going to need a pair of wings. So what I did was I cut paper that was 3 inches wide by 6 inches, and then I'm going to layer the wings. And this part, depending on the age of your child, mom and dad's might have to do, or maybe you can have your child attach them together. And then I have 3 inches by 3 inches so that we have a nice variety of color in the wings. And then what you do is make sure they're all lined up and staple them at the top. The staples will be hidden when you glue them onto the bird. So you need a pair of wings, the base, 3 by 6 inches, that would be my red one, then 3 by 4.5 inches and 3 by 3 inches. So I have a nice pair of wings here. Now, what you need is some strips that are the width of your bag. So these are 5 by 2 inch strips. It doesn't really matter how long you make or how high you make them. They can be 5 inches by 3 inches, 5 inches by 4 inches, just depends on how many chest feathers you want on your bird, but they need to be the same width as your bag, okay? Then you need a white piece of paper that can be folded in half, and you can draw an eye on it and cut out 2 eyes that are the same. You are also going to need to have legs and claws on our parrot. So you need some yellow paper that can be folded in half, and you can draw a leg and a claw and cut it out and have 2. So that is how you prep for this. Now, let me show you how to assemble. And the hardest part of this project, I can assure you, is waiting for the parrot to dry so that you can play with it. So what I do is I start with the head first. And I put some nice lines of glue on it. One thing that you're going to want to stress with your little one is you have to be kind of careful with the glue, because if you get the glue in the folds where you don't want it, your parrot won't be able to open up and be three-dimensional. So let's do the face first. So I have I'm a big fan of big, wide, googly cartoon eyes. So I'm gonna make some really big cartoon eyes here. And I'm gonna cut out. Paper's folded in half, and I'm cutting out 2 at a time so that they match. And then I'll have to do my drawing on the second one. So then I have 2 eyes. My parrot is looking to the side. He must be checking something out. So before I glue them, let's make our parrot beak. And remember, I said this was about 2 by 10 inch. And I'm gonna make a really long rectangle. Pointy rectangle, so he has a pointy beak. And take note that the fold is right here at the wide end of the rectangle, because this is going to allow your parrot's beak to open and close when you play with the puppet. So it may look like a really long beak right now, but when we glue it in there, it's going to be way up in that fold, which is about 2 inches wide. Okay, so I'm not going to glue the beak in yet, but I have it made and ready. Let's glue the eyes on. Now, we have some cutting to do. We need to make feathers for your bird's chest. So, you don't really need to plan it in advance, but I like doing a good variety of colors. So I'm just gonna decide about how many of them I need, and I really like that purple. And they're gonna get overlapped. They're gonna be kind of ruffly feathers on this bird's body. Do some blue and maybe a red at the top. So it looks like if I use about 5 or 6 will be good. Now, here's what you gotta do. This is great for the ones who love to cut. You need to make fringe on all of these little strips, and it's gonna make your bird have a fluffy, feathery chest. So one thing you're going to need to stress with your little one who's cutting is to not cut all the way through when you're making fringe. I maybe was a little bit eager here and I cut almost all the way through. So we don't want little pieces. When you're cutting, you want to stop cutting before you get to the other side. So I have a nice little pile here, and I need to do the same thing to the wings that we made. And we need to stop cutting before we get to the staples, and we'll have some wings. Now, before we start to assemble, put all these things together, we need to make the legs. I'm going to make the legs really long, and then I can trim them off if I want. I'm just going to make some, I don't know if they look like parrot claws, but 3 little claws on the end, and then we'll cut this out. And of course I'm doing it in dark black marker so you can see it on the video here. You don't have to do it in marker, you can do it in pencil. Okay, so let's start to assemble our bird. So we need to decide what order our feathers are going to go in. And I'm going to start with red at the bottom, because I know I'm going to have yellow claws sticking out at the bottom. And then I'll just alternate. And you want the fringe sticking out because this is the bird's feathers. Let's try green there, and then purple, and then red. Okay, so I like that arrangement. And what I'm going to do is pull these off and do one at a time. Oh, and one thing I like to do is fluff it up a little bit before I put it on. Okay, before we get too much stuff on here, my recommendation is to glue your legs in there. So what you do is put just a little bit of glue, open your bag up, and I just put them in the center, kind of spaced apart. Let's put the beak in. Put a little bit of glue at the wide part of the triangle. Lift up and slide it in there. And remember, you don't want to be too thick with your glue because it'll glue your flap shut. Okay? Now, open your bird just slightly, open your bag just slightly, and you're gonna slide the wings in here. And it doesn't matter how you position the wings. It's all up to what you like. I kind of like them slightly turned downward, make him look like maybe he's flapping his wings and flying. Okay, so I'm going to slide those in there. Very carefully. Press. Position my feet a little. There's also another little thing that I like to do is give him like a little feather on top of his head. It's just really cute. So what I do is I cut a triangle and I just put some fringe on it and make him look like he has some feathers on top of his head. I just think it's a cute little added thing, little detail that makes him even cuter than he already is, or she. So there's your parrot. Now, like I said, the hardest part of this is waiting and letting it dry. Now, here's my recommendation. Since you are likely to get a little bit of glue, maybe where you don't want it. I noticed that when I glued down my feathers, I got a tiny bit of glue inside here. So my recommendation to you is to take maybe a crumpled paper towel or a crumpled piece of newspaper or anything that you have on hand. You could even put your stapler in there. Slide it inside and let it dry while it's three-dimensional, so that those little extra dots of glue that you got where you didn't want them won't glue your puppet together and make it unusable. So I'm gonna set this aside and let it dry, and I'll do a little video of how it works when it's dry, okay? So I made two puppets, one with a red head and one with a green head, and you can see they move around really nice and they wiggle around really nice. I let them dry for about half an hour so that I could wiggle them around and use them. They're really fun, they're really cute. I hope you give them a try. Bye, see you next time.